So when fitting your new tail well to your drill, align the drill so that the chuck goes fully into, the drive shaft goes fully into the chuck, and then pull the drill sleeve firmly onto the torque area of the drill. It stabilises the unit, and then you have your stretchy cord to go around the back of it, which you can just pull tight, tuck it under there, and that just makes sure that it doesn't accidentally fall off the drill. Make sure the chuck's tight, and then the unit's good to go. Of course, lubricate it before using it for the first time, and that involves putting oil around the cutters and giving them a short run to make sure that the oil is evenly dispersed. If you want to remove the cutters and service the Tailwell2, you remove all of the 6 screws around the chassis, and then you can separate the unit. And the easiest way to do that is to press down on the bottom, the top case, push it away from the bottom case, and that allows the cutters to be exposed and the drive mechanism to be fully exposed. And you can see the layout of it. We have the rotator block and the rotator arm, and that's how the operation works. So now the cutters can be separated, and you can ensure that there's no hair caught round inside the cutters, because any hair caught between them is likely to keep the cutters apart and affect the cutting performance. Please note that on the inner cutter there is a line which indicates that particular hole, which is, these holes are slightly offset, and so it only fits into the chassis one way. You rotate it, it drops down. Anywhere else it won't seat properly. That's very important. When putting the cutters back in, drop it back on the top, make sure that the rotator bearing, which is the red bearing, has the word top at the top like that, and that the rotator arm is to the left of the drive shaft. And that's to ensure that it operates in the correct manner. Then you just refit the top case, don't forget to lubricate. Put a drop of oil onto there and a drop of oil onto there, just to make sure that the oil is right through the mechanism. It's also a good idea to have a bit of oil through the cutters and around that top chassis there, just a few drops. Then the unit can go back together, and you can replace all the screws using the screwdriver that's been supplied in the kit. When doing these screws up, do not over tighten them. They just need to make sure that they're gone firm and closing the housing. So, if you over tighten them, you run the risk of stripping the threads, and it's not necessary. The design of the housing ensures that there's tremendous strength with all 6 screws in there holding it together. Now, having assembled it and refitted it to your drill, you can adjust the cutter tension with these adjusting screws on the rear of the housing. So you'll do them up as tight as you can by finger against the back of the housing, and just give it a short run, and then just make sure they've gone bedded properly, and then just back them off just the tiniest amount, just a fraction of a turn, no more than moving it about 1 millimetre. And that will end up giving a unit that runs nice and smoothly, and you can simply test it using some hair from a tail to see how well it fits. And that unit is good to go. Of course, before you use it, ensure that you put oil around the cutters and use it every 30 or 40 tails, depending on the conditions, to ensure long life of your unit. If the cutting performance of your Tailwell starts to drop off a little bit, it could be that the blades are becoming a little dull. The teeth themselves are that hard that you cannot file them readily, so the best way to do it is using, from your kit, is using a little bit of this grinding paste. The paste is squeezed onto the blade, just a small amount. You spread it around and it just helps to hone and clean the face up. And then just working it backwards and forwards in the same zone as the blade operates. So you can go right round, but just working it backwards and forwards just will restore the peak performance of the cutters. This is done a few times for a few minutes, and you'll find that the cutting performance will be restored. Be very careful to ensure that the paste is wiped off the blade and there's nothing left. Wash them if necessary, and then carefully lubricate them before you reassemble it. And then the cutter can be fitted back into your tail trimmer and be all set to go again. Ensure that you've lubricated the cutters and around these areas here that operate inside the housing, and ensure that when you retighten all the screws in the tail trimmer that they're not over tightened. You just get them up firm. They don't have to be very tight. And then of course readjust the blades as originally with the teeth all aligned. Screw up the adjusters until they're firmly against the back of the blade. Check them to make sure you're getting even pressure, and then just back it off a little bit in each case, just a fraction, and the blades should be readily turned.